All right, we got some questions to answer here. We've got a hotline. If you don't know, it's a brand new feature that we have on our show. 717-844-5984, 717-844-5984. You can just call into that hotline and leave your question. It'll be recorded, and then we're going to play it on our Tuesdays and Thursdays broadcast. So without further ado, Micah, let's hear our first one.
Hi, Dr. Steve. The name's Courtney. I've been watching your YouTube channel for roughly 4 years, roughly when the BLM riots started. But I have a question of what's going on right now, because I'm a little concerned with what's going on in Europe. I've been seeing so many videos from Instagram about migrants who have just flooded their borders, and people are being evicted out of their homes only to be replaced by migrants. And when I mean people have had homes for generations that got passed from like their grandfather or their great-grandfather, and they're being kicked out to let in these absolute strangers, and they're feeling so depressed. It's an awful time to be living in England or France, and I'm just wondering, is there any hope for Europe, or is it slowly becoming an Islamist state, or is there any way they can revive Christianity? I want to believe that there's hope, but I'm just not sure right now. If you can feature this, I'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Well, there you are. Absolutely. What a great question. So let's, again, we need to apply the Stockdale principle, named after Admiral James Stockdale, who was the longest serving, if I recall, highest ranking, longest serving naval officer in a Vietnam prison of war camp. And he said the way you survive adverse situations is you have an absolutely realistic, sober assessment of what's happening, regardless of how serious it is. You've got to make sure you face the reality of it, no matter how dire your situation. And at the same time, you can never, ever lose hope that you'll prevail. If you have those two things together, you can get through pretty much anything in life. So let's look at the dire nature of it. And you described it very, very well. Outside of countries like Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia, to an extent, Austria, the Czech Republic, really outside of those countries, perhaps a bit more even with Serbia, Bulgaria. Outside of those countries, yes, the immigration has been, particularly from Northern Africa and the Middle East, has been, it has been a deluge. It has been a flood. I mean, I saw it in Britain, where I remember waiting for my cab to arrive after I arrived at the airport in Manchester, and and this is when I was studying, getting my doctorate in theology at Durham University, and I remember just sitting there outside, and I was sitting next to Pakistani Airlines, and the gate, the front desk or whatever for the Pakistani Airlines, and I remember just sitting there and watching people going in and coming out, so people departing and leaving in traditional Pakistani Islamic garb, with the men with very, very long beards, and the women with the burqas, and it just never stopped. I mean, I could sit there for like 45 minutes waiting for a cab, and it just never stopped. And I'm like, wow, am I in Britain, or am I, in the Middle East? It brought home to me, like, yeah, this is. Now, of course, Britain is a special case in the sense that it was a colonial power, it was an international empire, so it did oversee India and Pakistan even before the partitioning. And so, but when I went to Italy, I saw similar demographic changes. I was in Italy back in the early 90s, and then came back many years later, 2019, and I saw a big difference there. And Europeans have told me that. So basically, they've opened up since over the last couple of decades. Globalists have opened up the borders and have invited more or less Northern Africa and the Middle East in to Europe, and then they've been distributing the migrants throughout the Eurozone. This is one of the reasons why the UK left because of Brexit. I remember Nigel Farage saying that for you guys in the United States, your problem is illegal migration. Our problem in Britain is legal migration being forced upon us by the bullies in Brussels, where the center of the EU. So they left and still didn't get their their immigration issues sorted out, because the Conservative Party ended up opening up their borders even worse than Brussels did. It was absolutely insane. So yes, that is a problem, and yes, there have been some very concerning anecdotes coming out that people have been forced out of their house by squatters and the like. Now, that said, the good news is that Christianity is making a comeback in Europe, and I'm not talking about simply pietistic Christianity, although that is happening. Lestadian Lutherans, they have a 4-to-1 demographic advantage over secular Finns. They're in Finland. Orthodox Calvinists in the Netherlands have a 2-to-1 fertility advantage over secular Dutch. So there is a sense where the conservative Catholics, conservative Protestants, conservative Orthodox in Eastern Europe are more or less, just through reproduction, through their fertility advantage, they are changing slowly the complexion of Europe. But it's also Christianity really at the state level, where even the most secular countries like Sweden, Netherlands, France, you have their leaders openly talking about how we need to re-embrace and reappreciate Christianity, or else our civilization is going to disappear. So this isn't so much about an internal, pietistic faith. This is about a public faith, the faith that gave us cathedrals, the faith that gave us things like the Magna Carta and all kinds of political and cultural amazing developments, that gave us great literature and art and architecture and music and poetry, an amazing education system, an amazing healthcare system. This all came out of Christian civilization. People like Geert Wilders of the Netherlands, people like Marine Le Pen of France are all arguing that unless we self-consciously re-embrace our Christian traditions, we are going to be overrun by another religion, because secularism just can't do it. Even Richard Dawkins, the avowed atheist, he lamented the loss of what he called Christian Britain. Yeah, he lamented the loss of the Christmas markets, and then they're increasingly being replaced with, say, Islamic celebrations or Ramadan celebrations. And of course, it's like, well, but you spent your entire adult life railing against the very Christianity, the belief that undergirded this culture. So he's a little bit inconsistent there, but regardless, hey, welcome to the party, pal, right? So yes, there is hope. Europe can I actually just talked about this with Alexander Dugin this morning. Europe can rekindle the fire of Christian civilization. It's going to be hard given how restructured Europe was after World War II, and how it had a very severe secularism imposed upon it as a way of being able, the key with secularism is it's not specific to any, this is the idea of it, it's not specific to any country or culture. Secularism by its nature is supposedly rooted in scientific rationalism, and therefore can be exported onto any nation and all nations. So secularism was considered to be the way of knowing that would be globalist, that would be common for all people. Well, of course, it's been totally rejected. But unfortunately, after 7 decades of severe secularization, it's going to take some time for Europe, which was ground zero for globalism, was supposed to be the experiment of the administrative state, and then to export that administrative state to the rest of the world, hence Brussels, hence Davos and all that. It's going to take some time to be able to recover from 7 decades of secularization, but it can happen, and I pray it does. They have no other choice in the civilizationalist world. The rise of Orthodox Russia, the rise of Christian America, the rise of Hindu India, the rise of Confucian China, the rise of Ottoman Turkey. They have no choice. The rise of theocratic Israel. I mean, there's just no way around it. The world is going back to religion. It's going back to civilization. And they're going to look, frankly, like freaks if they're stuck in this globalist secular mindset. But first, gang, in a time when uncertainty dominates the headlines, finding the truth amidst the noise is more important than ever. With competing narratives, algorithm-driven echo chambers, and hidden biases influencing what we see, distinguishing fact from spin has never been more challenging. That's why I turn to Ground News. Ground News gathers news from over 50,000 sources worldwide, and unlike other news platforms, it exposes the spin behind every story, helping you see the full picture. That's why the Ground News app has earned over 10,000 five-star reviews from people who want to stay informed without the bias. See for yourself at ground.news/Steve. Now, one of my favorite features is the blind spot feed. It highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by either the left or the right, helping me get a more complete view of the news. And for every story, Ground News gives you a breakdown of the sources covering it, the bias of the media outlets reporting from the left, center, and right, how reliable those sources have been in the past, and even who owns them. This is the kind of media analysis you're not going to find anywhere else. So right now, my viewers can get this 40% off, 40% off unlimited access to Ground News' Vantage plan. That's the Vantage plan I have. Make sure you subscribe using my link at ground.news/Steve. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code when signing up. That's ground.news/Steve.
Hello, Dr. Turley. Republicans in Congress introduced legislation to rein in rogue judges. However, it is noted that 60 votes are needed to pass in the Senate. Can you please explain how Democrats were able to push through the so-called Inflation Reduction Act with an evenly divided Senate, yet Republicans keep getting stymied with a 60-vote threshold? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great question. So as I understand it, the way the rules work in the Senate, and this has happened over the last decade or so, is you have, if I recall, it's reconciliation. And reconciliation is if it is a budgetary matter or, interestingly, a judicial matter, you only need a simple majority. Everything else, you need the filibuster-proof 60, I guess technically a supermajority. So if it is an issue that has to do with budgeting, and if it is an issue that has to do with the appointing of judges, including Supreme Court judges, you just need a simple majority. There is no filibuster there in the Senate. So this is what the Democrats have been saying. This is how they're selling getting rid of the filibuster, is they're just basically saying, look, we've already gotten rid of it when it comes to budget item issues, and when it comes to judges, why not get rid of everything else, right? So that's where, and judges, we're talking about appointing judges, not impeaching them. You still have to reach that supermajority threshold, but that's the exception. It's called, if I recall, it's called reconciliation.
Hey there, Dr. Steve. It's Aaron Steele from Indiana. I think I got cut off, but anyway, I was saying, like, my question is, why is it that we are allies with the European Union when they are so hell-bent on standing for everything that we don't, such as censorship, and Britain, they're developing a two-tier justice system, and also what are why are they so hell-bent on destroying Christianity? I've seen also in Britain, Netflix is trying to destroy a classic from C.L. Lewis, Narnia, replacing Aslan as a female voice and recruiting one of those singers or actors from Kamala Harris's campaign. If you could give me some thoughts about that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
That's awesome, Aaron. Thank you for that. Yeah, well, many in Europe are saying, what happened? We're not allies anymore, and it's largely because, especially what we're seeing with the negotiations with Putin and Russia over Ukraine. Both Ukraine and Europe have basically largely been left out of those negotiations, where great power politics now is playing the key role in trying to find peace. In other words, peace is going to be secured and worked out by the major powers that center these more satellite countries. Satellite countries aren't going to work out the peace. You know, they're the little ones going yeah, and it's the big guys. It's like it's Russia and the United States that are pouring. They're the ones that have got the real military power that could keep the war going and keep supplying the little guy who's going after or wants to keep fighting. At the moment they pull their support, it's over. It's done. It's a proxy war between great powers. And what Trump is demonstrating, unlike Biden, is he recognizes that we are a great power politics today, a great power blocks around the world, these civilizational blocks. And if you'll notice, Europe has basically been shut out of those conversations. So why are we allies with them to begin with? It's part of the Marshall Plan. So World War II ends, and the world has just been decimated. Europe's been decimated. The Soviet Union's been decimated. Japan's been decimated. The world, the what we would call sort of the industrial world has been completely decimated. One nation has not. One nation got hit on December 7th, but never got hit again. One nation had the biggest manufacturing base on the planet. I think 30% of all exports in the world were coming from this one place, and that was these United States. So we rebuilt the world. We basically, and that's where the whole Bretton Woods system came in. That's where the International Monetary, the IMF came in, the World Bank, the WTO, World Trade Organization in the 70s. They all came together as U.S. created institutions to bring in all these member nations that we helped rebuild. So that's why we didn't tariff them. It's one of the reasons why we didn't tariff them. It was basically lending them money to help rebuild Japan, help rebuild Europe. Obviously, Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union were on their own. They had to rebuild themselves because they were in their own spheres in this bipolar Cold War world. And bottom line, NATO became the basis of the security architecture in Europe. So Western Europe agreed to allow the United States to basically dictate security, especially now that we had the bomb. And then after the fall of Eastern Europe, the fall of the Berlin Wall and Eastern European socialism, then the whole of Eastern Europe came under that security umbrella. And then the way we structured the world through the IMF and the economic world through the IMF and the WTO and the World Bank, it all went through the United States anyway. And Europe has basically been like vassal states to us. They can't really do much economically or militarily without our say-so. It's just the system, the way it works. Same with Japan, So the moment we change our tune, like J.D. Vance did in Munich a couple of months ago, they freak out. They're like, whoa, wait a minute here, because they don't like being. They know. And again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just being totally descriptive, not prescriptive. They know their vassal state at this point. They know that. They know the United States owns Europe militarily, and we own it economically. If we pulled the plug militarily and economically, and if they were on their own, I don't think Europe would even know what to do. So when all's said and done, they don't like being reminded of that, and Trump loves to remind them of that. So Trump is not the ally to Europe that they want. The ally to Europe that they want is one that just looks the other way whenever Europe does European things. They do not have the free speech tradition that we have. They've embraced a like I talked about earlier, just a rabid secularism, because the new Europe was supposed to be ground zero for the new globalization. It's supposed to be the administrative state. That's the way they would call themselves. They're a managerial state that could be exported anywhere in the world. So they self-consciously eroded their own unique identities. They self-consciously eroded their unique religious tradition, Christianity. Anything that could not be exported, they got rid of, so as to be the model managerial administrative state for the world. Now the world has totally rejected managerial administrative states. They've rejected globalism, and so all Europe now is left is this what do you want to call it, sort of sterile secularism, this absurd wokeness, as you pointed out so brilliantly, and now sort of this economic paralysis with nowhere to go. They can't export it. They can't do anything. Nobody wants it. And so now it's up to Europe if they're ready to now reclaim what is theirs by right, which is their Christian civilizational inheritance, which was once the wonder of the world. And they can do that again, but they are going to have to go towards the great parties like the AfD in Germany and National Rally in France and Vox in Spain and Chega in Portugal. Reform is a start in Britain. I know Carl Benjamin's listening. He'll have a little issue with Nigel and so forth. But hey, they're a movement in the right direction. They're going to have to go with the Viktor Orban Fidesz party, the Law and Justice Party in Poland. They're going to have to go the Austrian Freedom Party. They're going to have to go in that direction and just absolutely throw away the bullies in Brussels, the whole EU experiment. Just absolutely chuck it and reject it. Good news is it looks like that's where things are moving. It's just the question is how long.
Dr. Turley, this is Roy Sharp. I live in a small town in Missouri. I watch your show faithfully, and I get all my political information from you. But my question is this. I know Donald Trump is reorganizing, President Trump is reorganizing the healthcare system, especially dealing with Social Security. And I was wondering, is he going to cut Social Security for everyone, or is it just for the illegal aliens that are going to be deported? That's my question. Is Social Security still safe for everyone like myself and everyone that I know, or is it all going to be cut? Just let me know. Thank you. Bye.
Great question, Roy. Actually, great question. A lot of people are asking that question because of what the Democrats are doing in terms of trying to scare people that Elon Musk is coming to cut your Social Security. He's gonna chainsaw it out of effect. So as things stand, there is nothing, zippo nada, that the Trump administration is going to do with your Social Security. Period. End of discussion. They have made that absolutely clear. Trump is very pro-entitlement. He has no problem with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. It's part of the working class realignment. He does believe in a very muscular government and an interventionist government in that sense. What they are cutting is the fraud. You caught that. That's excellent. That's exactly right. They're cutting, whether it's the illegal migrants getting it or whether people who are 150 years old who are getting checks, and duplicates. There's a lot of duplicates, triplicates, a lot of people getting multiple checks rather than just the one. That's what they're cutting. They're not, no one who is, who meets the qualifications, the age qualification to begin collecting Social Security will be denied that. They've made that absolutely clear. Unfortunately, the Democrat, again, the adage is you want to make a Democrat mad, tell them the truth. You want to make I did it opposite. If you want to make a Republican mad, lie to them. If you want to make a Democrat mad, tell them the truth. Democrats love lies. They really do. They love lies. They do. And it's largely because the left is largely, in terms of its leadership, it is they are pathological. And again, there's been studies we talked about. Andrei Lubachevsky and Olavo de Carvalho, these scholars who've studied Marxists and leftists all their entire adult lives, and they both came to the same conclusion, one from a political theorist perspective, another one from a psychological perspective, that they're all psychopaths, and psychopaths lie. Psychopaths use lies to manipulate, malevolently manipulate people at a mass scale if they can. So that's why they tend to be attracted to politics and political power. They are the Democrats today are ruled by psychopaths, and psychopaths lie, and they lie in order to manipulate you and get you to try to whip you up into a hysteria. And that's exactly what we're seeing with for example, the Tesla terrorism and the like. So TDS, right? Tesla derangement syndrome. So you don't have to worry about a thing, my friend. Trump's got you covered, and he's always made that promise that he will always take care of the citizens of our nation. That's what America First is all about. Hey there, Turley Talker. You know what? I'd love to hear from you. That's why I'm launching the Dr. Steve Hotline, where you can call in, leave a question, and maybe even hear your own voice featured on an upcoming episode of the show. Whether it's about the latest political shakeup or cultural trends or how we keep pushing forward in this new conservative age, I want to know what's on your mind. Call me at 717-844-5984. Just leave your question. I'll be checking in every single week to answer as many as I can. Again, that's 717-844-5984. Your chance to be a part of the conversation. One more time, 717-844-5984. Give me a call and let's talk.